Question 41. What would you do if a workmate wasn't pulling their weight?
First, if a workmate isn't pulling their weight, I wouldn't call it out bluntly or accuse them. That only puts people on the defensive and makes things worse. Second, I'd ask first, not tell. There's often a reason, so I'd quietly check if something's going on, then re-explain what the supervisor asked for so we get back on the same page, framing it as let's get on track together, not you're doing it wrong. Finally, if it keeps happening and starts to affect the team or safety, I'd share it with the supervisor, not as a complaint about him, but because the whole team carrying its share is part of everyone staying safe.
Question 42. What do you do if the team decides something you don't agree with?
First, if the team decides something I don't agree with, I don't dig in, but I do make sure I've explained my view clearly and understood where the difference is before anything's settled. Second, once the team has decided, I get behind it and cooperate fully. A team that pulls in different directions gets nothing done, and I'd rather commit to the group's call than protect my own opinion. Finally, the one exception is safety. If a decision is genuinely unsafe, I won't just go along with it. I'll raise it and, if needed, report it, because safety always outranks personal opinion.
Question 43. How do you work with a team under pressure?
First, in busy restaurant work, the pressure hit the whole team at once, and what I learned is that the more you rush, the less you see, so I make a point of staying calm when things get intense. Second, a calm mind doesn't mean slow hands. I keep my mind relaxed but my actions quick and simple, and I coordinate with the team and share information so no one's left guessing. Finally, once we get through it safely, I like to take a moment to look back at what worked, and staying steady under pressure is exactly what lets a team pull together instead of falling apart.
Question 44. Are you more comfortable leading or supporting the team?
First, honestly, I can do either. It depends on what the team needs at the time, so I read the situation rather than insisting on one role. Second, but I'm not applying here to lead. My default is to be a solid, reliable supporter who does the job well and makes the team's work easier. Finally, that said, if no one steps up in a moment that needs it, I'll take the lead, not by giving orders, but by doing it first so others follow. So you can count on me either way. A dependable teammate first, and a leader when the situation calls for it.
Question 45. What does good teamwork mean to you?
First, to me, good teamwork stands on three things, and the first is constant sharing, keeping everyone on the same information, because on a work site, what one person knows alone protects nobody. Second, it's looking out for each other, watching each other's backs, noticing when a workmate is struggling, and stepping in before a small problem grows. Finally, it's trust built on honesty, being someone who does what they say, owns their mistakes, and never talks behind anyone's back. Put those together, and a team doesn't just work well. The synergy makes everyone stronger, and the loneliness of remote work fades away.
Question 46. Are you okay with the roster and swing this job involves?
First, yes, I understand what a roster like 2-to-1 or 8-6 actually means, and the set rhythm of on and off periods is something I genuinely prefer to an irregular schedule. Second, I plan for it in advance. I arrange my personal life around the rotation so I can commit to the full swing without anything pulling me away. Finally, I'm comfortable with whatever roster the role runs on. Naturally, I'd welcome a better roster if one came up, but I'd never treat that as a demand. I'm here to fit into your schedule, not to have it fit around me.
Question 47. How do you feel about being away from home for weeks at a time?
First, what keeps me steady about being away is the motivation. I see Fifo as work that will genuinely grow my career and my future, so the weeks away aren't a sacrifice. They are an investment in myself. Second, on top of that, I actually enjoy new places and environments, so time away feels more like an adventure than a burden. Finally, I've prepared practically too. I know the roster in advance, so I plan regular video calls with family and make the most of my time off. Being away isn't something I just tolerate. It's a purposeful choice tied to where I want to go.
Question 48. How do you feel about sharing living facilities in camp?
First, I respect shared space by keeping it clean and not just my own area. I clean up after myself, but I'll also tidy up the space around me if it needs it, because in a camp small habits affect everyone. Second, I'm considerate of others' space and rest. I keep noise down, especially for people on different shifts, and I'm easy to live alongside. Finally, I stay friendly and open. I get along with people easily and enjoy sharing meals and downtime, which makes camp feel less like a workplace and more like a community. Honestly, good company is one of the things that makes remote work enjoyable.
Question 49. How do you look after your health and fitness on a long roster?
First, I look after my body first. I exercise regularly, eat properly, and stay hydrated, because on a physical job, your body is your most important tool. Second, I'm careful with my off-time habits. I don't spend the whole evening on screens, and I keep a steady sleep routine so I'm properly rested for each shift. Finally, I also look after my mind with things like meditation and quiet time, because being well-rested with a clear head isn't just about feeling good. A sharp, rested mind is what keeps me safe on site.
Question 50. How do you recharge on your days off?
First, I keep a healthy rhythm rather than just sleeping the whole day away. Recharging is about keeping a steady rhythm, not just resting more, so I don't wreck my routine and pay for it later. Second, I recharge actively. A swim, some exercise, getting outside, because moving my body actually leaves me more refreshed than doing nothing does. Finally, I balance that with music, some quiet time or meditation, and time with the crew, so I come back to the next shift genuinely reset, not run down.
Question 51. How would you keep in touch with your family while you're away?
First, I keep a regular routine for contact, a set time for video or phone calls, so my family knows when to expect me and staying connected doesn't get left to chance. Second, I treat my days off as proper family time, fully present, not half working, so the time we do have together really counts. Finally, I keep them in the loop on my roster and my goals, so they understand why I'm doing this and feel part of it, because a settled home life is exactly what lets me focus fully at work.
Question 52. How do you feel about strict site rules like alcohol limits, curfews, and testing?
First, I fully support them. I don't see them as restrictions. They're what keeps everyone safe, and that's exactly how a site should be run. Second, I already live that way. I keep myself fit for work, so rules about alcohol, testing, or being ready for each shift aren't a change for me. They're just how I already operate. Finally, I respect curfews and site routines the same way, because they're there so everyone gets proper rest and stays sharp. And on a remote site, one person ignoring the rules can put the whole team at risk.
Question 53. How would you handle harsh conditions like extreme heat and dust?
First, I handle harsh conditions with preparation, not just willpower, staying hydrated, wearing the right PPE, and pacing myself so the heat and dust don't wear me down. Second, I watch for the warning signs, like heat stress in myself and the people around me, and I report them early rather than trying to push through, because pushing past your limit in that heat is how people get hurt. Finally, I keep a positive, adaptable attitude about it. Harsh conditions don't worry me. Being unprepared for them would. And that preparation is exactly what I'd bring to your site.
Question 54. How do you cope with homesickness?
First, I keep a regular routine of video calls with my family, so staying in touch is something I plan for, not something I just hope works out. Second, I keep myself busy and grounded, exercising, keeping to a routine, and spending time with the people around me at camp, because an empty mind is where homesickness grows. Finally, I turn the feeling around. Being away isn't me leaving my family behind, it's me taking care of them. So what could be homesickness becomes motivation instead.
Question 55. How do you stay motivated through repetitive or long days?
First, I stay motivated by keeping my purpose in mind. The work is for my future, my family, and pulling my weight for the team, so even a long, repetitive day has a point behind it. Second, I manage myself so the routine never turns into carelessness. A moment of carelessness can turn safety into danger, so I make a point of getting a proper night's sleep, and staying switched on for every task. Finally, I feed off the team's energy too. A good crew keeps each other going, and that shared drive is what carries everyone through the long days.
Question 56. How do you handle the boredom and isolation of remote work?
First, I keep boredom from setting in with a routine. When your time is structured, empty hours don't pile up on you in the first place. Second, I use things like exercise and meditation to stay in control of my own state of mind, and I shift my perspective. With a clear picture of a better future, empty time turns into a drive to improve myself rather than time to waste. Finally, I don't isolate myself. I make a point of connecting with the crew and keeping an eye on how they are doing too, because on a remote site, looking out for each other's headspace is part of keeping everyone safe.
Question 57. What would you do if you had a conflict with someone you live and work with for weeks?
First, I'd pick the right moment. Nothing gets solved when emotions are high, so I let it cool down first and raise it when we're both calm, rather than in the heat of the moment. Second, I keep personal feelings out of it and focus on the issue itself. With respect, when you live alongside someone for weeks, protecting the working relationship matters more than winning the argument. Finally, if it touches safety or we just can't settle it, I bring in the supervisor. But most things, handled calmly and early, never need to get that far.
Question 58. What would you do if you were feeling burnt out or mentally exhausted?
First, I'd recognize it early and be honest about it with my supervisor, not as a complaint, but as taking responsibility, because a good supervisor would rather know early than find out after a mistake. Second, I'd go back to basics: proper sleep, exercise, eating well, and taking my days off properly, and take leave if I genuinely needed it to reset. Finally, if it were serious, I'd use the support the company provides, because burnout isn't just a personal problem. A mentally exhausted worker is a safety risk, so managing it early protects the whole team.
Question 59. A lot of people quit Fifo quickly. What makes you think you'll last?
First, I've looked at the reality honestly, not just the pay, the long rosters, the time away, the tough conditions, and I've made my decision with open eyes, so I'm not going to be surprised out of it. Second, I've got a clear purpose behind it and I know myself. I understand how I handle being away. I manage my own routine and health, and those are exactly the things that decide who lasts and who doesn't. Finally, for me, this isn't a try it and see. It's a commitment I've prepared for. A person who prepares seriously and commits isn't someone who walks away the moment it gets hard.
Question 60. Why do you think you'll adapt well to Fifo life?
First, it suits my temperament. I'm sociable and I enjoy new places and people, so camp life and being away feel more like an adventure than a hardship to me. Second, I manage myself well. I keep a healthy rhythm, look after my body and mind, and respect the rules, and those self-management habits are what Fifo life really runs on. Finally, I've got a clear purpose driving it, a future I'm building for myself and my family. So for me, Fifo isn't something I have to endure. It's a lifestyle that actually fits who I am.